Hey everyone, Pat Mesiti here, and it's Monday afternoon, 3:40. People often say to me, Pat, why don't you just set a time like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock? We may do that one day. But I want to actually speak to you guys. I know I spoke on Saturday night about what happened in New South Wales. Now, this comes after me sitting on this for a while. Great to have you on, Renato. If we could start telling people that we're on, that would be really good, because what I'm going to say, some of it may shock you and some of it won't shock you, but good to see you there, Billy and Duke. If you could let people know, guys, let people know we're on, and tell people we are on. We are on. Thank you, Dawn Smith, for being on here, and thank you for all the support. Well, Saturday night should not have been a shock. Thank you, Lachlan Wood, for being on here as well, and so many others on there. And hey, everybody, big hello, and good to have you there, Tanya, as well. Hey, everyone, just say a big hi, and God bless you to everybody on here. This is family, and Maria, one of my relatives, is on. Good to have you on here, Maria. And, well, we shouldn't be surprised by Saturday's result. I want to say this right at the very outset. Nations get the governments they deserve. Now, I know that's not very popular with people, but let me just tell you, when you look at history and when you look at the good book, God gives you what you want. Israel wanted a king. God wasn't good enough. They got a Saul. Then after a while, they got an Ahab. And I'll explain that later on. Thanks for being on here, Robert and Darylyn and Jeanette. Thank you for being on here. Let's get word out here. Why did they lose? Well, an illustration of why they lost comes directly from the Victoria president down there, or not president, but opposition leader, John Pesutto. This is the second woman that the Liberal Party in Victoria have attacked in themselves. If I stood here with a knife and started stabbing my body, you'd lock me up and say, Pat, you're crazy. But the Liberal Party keeps doing it. They did it in New South Wales, threw Dominic under a bus, by the way, and I'm sorry that I actually supported him, and I apologise for that, for supporting in the beginning. Threw him under a bus, releasing photos, and people, you know, like the David Elliots and all that, getting all involved. They imploded among themselves. A house divided cannot stand. Not going to happen. So in Victoria, you've got a leader who's totally cooked them. In John Pesutto, MP Moira Deemy, a member of the Victorian Liberal Party, will be temporarily suspended by the party after she attended a women's rights rally and read a letter from her Muslim friend worried about the safety of women in Australia. The party leadership, said they were going to expel her, but they reached a compromise. What's this? And now they've suspended her for, 9 months. Let me get this right. What is wrong with the Liberal Party? You have completely gone bonkers. Wait, you've got a woman speaking at a women's freedom rally. Abused a lot by men who want to be like her. A woman. And they're not. See, I'm not going to follow the science when it tells me a man can be a woman. I'm sorry. And by the way, this is the second time the Liberal Party in Victoria have done it. They attacked Renee Heath, who actually won her seat. And now I want you to watch this. You've got a Liberal Party crucifying, suspending, one, a Christian lady, or tried to. Two, a woman that goes to speak to women about women's rights. Same problem in New South Wales. They did it to Catherine Deeds. Threw her under a bus. You get the governments you deserve. Australia is getting the governments we deserve. And I'm telling you, what is it going to take to get people's attention? Thanks for being on, Sam and Creta and Margaret. Thank you. Please let people know. What does a good Almighty have to do to get our attention? Why did the Liberal Party get flogged? Let me give you a name and surname. Matt Keane. Matt Keane, who was busy pushing a greedy agenda. That's what he was. That's what he did. And they sent him out to the teal-loving Northern Beaches areas. Matt Keane is one of the guys hugely responsible. Now, I said that I predicted he would take over. Let me tell you why he didn't stand. Because nobody likes him. Nobody likes him. He stands for zero. This guy is better not in the Labor Party. He's better with the fascists, the Greens, who destroy our economy, push radical agenda, pro-drugs and drug addiction, pro-shooting galleries. This is all in New South Wales. Why did they lose? They lost their base. They go from an extreme, watch this, a bully and biohazard to an Ahab. Now, who was Ahab? Ahab was a king in Israel who was a weak, tolerant man that just allowed for everything. Watch this. And was controlled by his wife, Jezebel. A controlling woman. Not saying all women are controlled. I'm just telling you. These people were the equivalent of what's going on in the Liberal Party right now. It's woke, gone mad. Absolutely mad. Now, here's what I didn't know. Dominic Perrottet, Catholic boy. Chris Minns, Catholic boys. I got actually more time for Chris Minns. Now, before you all shout me down, who was it that voted for voluntary euthanasia? That came under a Liberal government. A Liberal government. These guys have an obsession with death. An obsession with death and no obsession with protecting what is natural and normal. The sexualization of children in this country is deplorable. And all of this, the entry point was through that Ahab called Scott Morrison. That's who started all this stuff. Why did they lose their seat? Well, I believe not only do they have the bullies, but they're pushed towards the green. They want to be copycats. You've lost your base. The only conservative, oh sorry, not the only. Why are people going towards a Mark Latham and a Pauline and a Malcolm Roberts? I'll tell you why. Because they are conservative. The Liberal Party is no longer the Conservative Party of Robert Menzies, let alone John Howard. I'll leave that alone. They are not. They represent nothing of Christian values, family values. They are hell-bent on copying. Now, think of this. If you've got a government that's bullied you, locked you down in the West, choppers and drones at night, and by the way, have a guess where they lost a lot of seats. Have a guess where they lost a lot of seats. Parramatta of all places. You lock them down, you bully them, you threaten them, you name call them. And then another guy comes in and says, hey, I'm not like that. I've got a little bit of civility about me. And by the way, I'm going to give it some handouts and I'm going to help you with your wages. Why wouldn't you vote for him? And voluntary euthanasia. And a few other things that Dominic should have never supported. Now, here's the other thing. And I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to name the pastor, and I'm not going to name the school, and I'm not going to name the so-called apostle. I was on social media on Saturday night. I've just got bombarded, and I saw a church leader put up a photo of him in Chris Minns, and I reacted. I said, what are you doing this for? And he said, and I quote, and I've got the text, I could post the whole thing up here, and I won't mention his name, so I don't give him any air. He just got appointed to another position in a so-called Christian school today, this guy. The reason why he thought it was wonderful to do that is because Chris Minns promised him $50,000 for their Christian community festival for Easter. When will the church ever get through its thick head? They are not kingdom, they are kingdom. D-U-M-B. Kingdom. When will we learn that the government doesn't give you money to church folks unless it wants to control exactly what you do, exactly what you say? See, now you're going to have to allow every single nut job at that Christian festival. Every single nut. Every bloke that wants to dress as a clown and think he's Eve. That's what you're going to allow. I'm telling you, because if you're going to keep with the spirit of community, the spirit of tolerance, which Jesus said thousands of years later, after this woman Jezebel's dead, he says to his church leadership, you tolerate that woman Jezebel. Tolerance. God's way is repentance. Thank you, Greta and David, for being on here, and Kerry, thank you for being on here. Tolerance is only tolerance for those that you agree with. The moment you don't agree, what are we going to do? We're going to run you out of town. We're going to ban you for 9 months, Maura. We're going to shame you, Renee. We're going to block your churches so you can't get in. We're going to send people like Rosie Parker home and don't give her a voice. That's what we're going to do. This loving, rainbow, lefty Nazism. There, I'll use that word. Honestly. And I know I'm going to get belted for this. Probably get shadow banned again. Probably send me some censorship thing. Children must never be raised in a sexualized environment. And yet the Liberal Party is all for this. Now you got church leaders getting 50 grand. He promised this prior to his election. Chris Minns. Now, I don't blame Chris. When are we going to learn? Why did they lose? They've become a Me Too movement. They've lost their values. They are for nothing. They stand for zero. Next key. They continue to appease and move to the left. And the left is getting more and more extreme. The next reason is weak leadership. Weak. Right now, nobody wants that job in New South Wales. The guy from Manly doesn't want it. Matt Keane doesn't want it. I think God saved us on that one. Why did they lose the election? You shut down the church, people. Liberal Party did that. You touched what God said don't touch. God said, don't touch my bride. Leave her alone. But you didn't. You didn't. You mocked, you made fun of, you threatened, you fined, you knocked on the door, and Dan Andrews is no better. You see, the reason why they have lost the election is because the Liberal Party has lost themselves. They stand for nothing. Now, I've got to commend the likes of Mark Latham. I want to thank him publicly for his kind support of real values. And the man isn't even a Bible-believing Christian, from what I understand. But you know what amazes me? He does and stands more for Christian values than many of our pulpits on a Sunday morning. If the pulpit was ablaze with fire, real fire, not smoke machines. See, people don't die in fires from burns. They mostly die from smoke inhalation. And there's a lot of smoke out there. This guy that got the 50 grand and the pastor standing behind him says to me, Pat, I don't want to fight with you. We need you to unite. Let me make this one thing clear. I will never unite with compromise, woke, complicit, compliant. I'll never do it. It ain't going to happen. Because you can never get unity at the expense of truth, justice, and what is morally correct. But yet, I almost mentioned the guy's name in Sydney. I could get even more specific. We'll leave it at that. Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. You guys are doing it for 50 grand. When government becomes your source, government becomes your God. You give them the power to feed you, and you give them the power to control you. Did you hear me, folks? You give them the power to feed you. You give them the power to control you. Well, Wednesday, we have our financial freedom event on, and it's going gangbusters. I got to tell you, we have had such a response. It's unbelievable. And I'm bringing in one of the world's leading experts. And by the way, I'm using the same system ourselves, and we're seeing our investments. We started small. We don't go crazy. We're seeing it just grow week by week, day by day, month by month. It's fantastic. And the great thing is it's a set and forget. I don't even have to do anything. I love it. I'm not that way wired, but the technology that's there is simply amazing. Now, if you'd like to be part of this, I'd encourage you to be part of this on Wednesday. It's free. They'll be having some education there that you can avail yourself of or not. If you don't want to, that's fine. But just come and get the learnings. And I'll put the link in the chat, okay? And I just would encourage you folks to please go to our pages and like and subscribe. Also, be aware of all these people inboxing you saying, hey, it's Pat, could I mentor you about crypto? No. If it doesn't have the blue tick, it's not me, okay? We've got ourselves verified and everything else. So I don't inbox people directly. I do my talks here where I promote, my emails. I only text people when they have confirmed they're attending an event or they've got to be on my database. I don't inbox you directly or DM asking you about the latest thing I've discovered. They are liars, charlatans, and crooks. Don't do it. Don't let that stop you from clicking on my link that I put on there. And so, thank you back and just share what was on my heart. We don't get the governments that we need. We get the ones we deserve. And it's about time we start turning back to the right source, to our right compass. The Liberal Party's completely lost their way. They're not the Conservative Party anymore. People like One Nation, a few real independents they're the Conservatives Party. And by the way, if the Liberal Party did their job, you wouldn't need a One Nation. You wouldn't. Where were they? Senator Malcolm Roberts asked that question at the CPAC convention. Where were you guys? Where were you guys? And sadly, their voice has been drowned in a sea of echoes. They are no voice. I doubt they'll recover for years. And now mainland Australia, apart from Tasmania, is all red. And I would prepare for the coming financial challenges you're going to have. There is some good news at the end of the tunnel. There is some good news. There is hope if you get educated, folks. The current system is collapsing, and we need to be aware and astute and skilled. And it doesn't hurt to upskill. It doesn't hurt to upskill. So we'll be Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. Sydney time, and then Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Sydney time. I will put the link in the chat. That way you can register and subscribe. And if you don't want to, that's fine as well. All right, God bless you, everybody. I said my piece. I had a lot more to say. I made so many notes here, but I've already gone over time. God bless you, everyone.